Today's video is sponsored by a good friend of the channel, Bootleg Greedo. Isshin versus Najila. Yeah, pretty slow hand, but we've got card advantage. I dare say in 1v1 this is going to be a really spiky Najila deck, so see how fast they can beat us. A reconnaissance on turn 1. And then we draw into Karlak, so it's just a tap land for us. We now see a second land along with a Jeweled Lotus. And our opponent is going to go down to 2 cards. We see a Spike Jester, 3-1 with haste. So getting into a quick board wipe would be nice. See a Goldspan Dragon now. And now an Ash Zealot as well, so seeing a lot of warrior tokens swinging in. And we're down to 23 already, before we've even hit our third piece of mana. An Honoured Crop Captain coming a little bit too late. So I think we just need to try our damnedest to get into the board wipe at this point, which means we draw 3 cards and lose 3 life from the Painful Truths and just hope that we don't die next turn. Alright, but not getting into anything, a reconnaissance mission of our own, a Reflecting Pool and the Swiftfoot Boots, so just await our imminent demise here. Now seeing a Rally the Ranks to give +1/+1 to all the warrior tokens, so that's 10 damage on its own. And obviously they get more warriors here. Alright, and there we are. Nice quick one. Let's see if we were anywhere close to a board wipe here. Apparently not. Yeah, didn't have any chance of winning that. Isshin versus Go-Shintai. And we've got mana and a means of emptying and refilling our hands, so definitely keep that one. We draw into a fetch, so go after the tap Triome with that. Draw into Inferno Titan, so it is a Talisman this turn. We'll grab ourselves a dual land. Go-Shintai drops an Ancient Tomb, which allows him into a turn 3 Thran Dynamo. And it's another land for us, so yeah, just go for our commander, I think. Just a tap land from our opponent, so struggling on the colours apparently. We draw into Hanweir Garrison, which I would have liked to get down last turn. Although we do now have Hanweir Battlements and Hanweir Garrisons, so that's something to aim for next turn. So play that out here. Don't think we need to worry about Dome and Gate this turn, so we'll get down the battlements and I will give the Hanweir Garrison haste. And we'll see our opponent potentially get some spot removal on the go here. An Utter End it looks like. Nope, an Anguished Unmaking, so exiling the Hanweir Garrison didn't get the Hanweir Writhing Township going, unfortunately. It's not going on the Inferno Titan at least. Go-Shintai into play on turn 5. And then playing out Honden of Infinite Rage. So they've got 4 shrines now. Is this at the beginning of the upkeep? Yeah, they can get rid of our Isshin now. Alright, got Aether's Protection available to us. Alright, so maybe we just go for the Inferno Titan here and get rid of these shrines ready to swing in next turn. And that way the Honden can't get rid of our commander. So it's 1 to each of the tokens and then 1 to our opponent. So instead shifting the 2 damage straight to our face, might as well. It is a Sanctum this time, Sanctum of Fruit and Harvest. So they control 4 shrines again. And it is mana of any 1 colour at the beginning of the pre-combat main phase. 4 cards in hand, we draw into a Painful Truths. So I think going Painful Truths first is the play here, just in case we draw into something good. And 3 colours gone into that, so it's 3 mana, 3 cards and lose 3 life. And there's an Honoured Crop Captain, so maybe get that down this turn along with the Dorman Gate. Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about getting down Dorman Gate pre-combat phase because it doesn't really matter how our opponent's block there. So Inferno Titan goes in, we get Lightning Bolt split up twice. So it's a shock to our opponent's face and get rid of a shrine. Once again protecting our commander from the Honden. And then, oh actually we could have got rid of, yeah, I should have dealt a point of damage to the Go-Shintai actually, but maybe this will have our opponent stick around longer. We'll just Lightning Bolt our opponent's face. So while we don't have much need for the Dorman Gate straight away, I'm not going to play out the Honoured Crop Captain into the Honden, they'll just shoot it. So I think we're just holding up to Teferi's Protection here really. Our opponent's on a fairly decent clock. Okay, they do block with Go-Shintai, that's surprising, so maybe they've got a board wipe. Should have had 6 damage on them there. So definitely holding up to Teferi's now. Only a 2 for the Honden and the Sanctum, so a shock to our face, and they'll get 2 mana here from the green one. And there we see the Wrath of God, which we did predict, so We'll try the Teferi's Protection. You have a Maya Cradle of Growth into Privileged Position, which means we can't get rid of the enchantments anymore with our Chaos Warp, which could be relevant. We draw into a Swiftfoot Boots, so our opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. I'm obviously not looking to wheel whilst they're at only 2 cards in hand. Can go on a Crop Captain and the Swiftfoot Boots this turn, I think. On a Crop Captain, obviously going to have haste from the Swiftfoot Boots. Yeah, maybe just hold up the... well, there's not much point in holding up Chaos Warp now, is there? Yeah, probably just get down the Doming Gate, so I could have done that pre-combat, but I don't think our opponent's going to get down a creature at instant speed. So we swing him, and it is a couple of Lightning Bolts from the Inferno Titan onto our opponent, and our opponent scoops at that. Yeah, we were getting +2/+0 to our creatures as well, so that would have been them down to 14, then down to 8 + 2, down to 6, and yeah, would have had them there, I think. So, was an interesting game. They would have had us if the Honden had done as much damage as they would have liked it to, but luckily the Inferno Titan controlled them quite nicely. We'll play another one. Isshin versus Karametra, and that's quite a nice curve, so we will try it. We draw into Audacious Thief. Our opponent did cast something there. It was suspending a Search for Tomorrow. So play the Night's Whisper, draw 2 and lose 2, and we get into a couple of lands. Alright, while our opponent's going pretty slow, there's a Fervor. I was going to say that we go for Audacious Thief, but maybe go for it next turn. Either way, we're only attacking him with this next turn, so we might as well get down the Fervor here. Search for Tomorrow has the Last of Spain counter removed, so they get another basic into play, which allows them into a Beast Whisperer, so not going to be swinging in with this apparently. And we draw into another land, so let's go for, yeah, we'll grab a dual land with this. And then it might as well just be the Bruce Tal, I think, because that's the best use of our mana at the moment, I think. And then swing in straight away, so that's given itself double strike and lifelink. It already has haste, of course. So taking our opponent down to 34, we go back up to 42. And then it's Karametra, which does count as casting a creature, so they draw a card with the Beast Whisperer. 3 pips away from animating that thing. Another land for us. So maybe it's Captain Lannery Storm. Then we can threaten giving that an extra point of power. They're not going to block with the Beast Whisperer. And then we can land the Audacious Thief, assuming that we still have the treasure available to us. So swing in at our opponent, only getting the 1 treasure token, and put double strike onto the Lannery Storm to make it more difficult for them to block. So of course they do not block. Taking them down to 27, we go up to 46, and I think it's safe to play the Audacious Thief here. Or do we just play our commander? It hurts us less if they just so happen to go for a board wipe. Yeah, we'll get down Isshin. And there is a Freyalise, Lenoir's Fury. They decide to make a chump blocker, not getting rid of the Fervor, thankfully. We're going to be able to put double strike and lifelink on a couple of things here. Yet another land for us, can't stop drawing into those. Try and draw into something else with the Audacious Thief. We'll swing in with this turn. Alright, and there is a Path to Exile, so we get another land. It means the Akroma's Memorial's easier to cast next turn, but I don't think we were going to struggle with that anyway. We'll certainly use the ability on Path to Exile. And still going to swing in here. I'll go in at Freyalise with the commander, and then, yeah, I think we take everything in at the commander actually, because then we definitely deal some damage to the Freyalise and it encourages them to block with the Dork as well. So we make a couple of treasures and we draw a couple of cards, lose 2 life to the Audacious Thief. And there we see a couple of Titans, Engraved Titan and Sun Titan. All 3 of those are in the deck. So just missing the Inferno at the moment. Alright, so allowing 3 damage to go through to the Freyalise, so I wouldn't have thought they'd take that down on the Fervor next turn. They might do though, we do get them to block with a Dork. Plussing on Freyalise to make another Dork, and then we see Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. So the Akroma's Memorial going to be useful next turn, I think. Plussing on the Nissa to make a plant, and the Karametra is animated now. Deciding to hold it back as a blocker. We can deanimate it easily enough by getting rid of these walkers. So there we see a Sol Ring, plenty of mana this game. Play out the Sol Ring straight away. Then land ourselves an Akroma's Memorial, And we need to choose which Planeswalker we're taking out here. I think the Freyalise is going to be the most dangerous. Could obviously crack the treasures to make sure that this can get rid of it on its own, but I think it's best to just keep the treasures in play here. We'll get a couple more. So down goes Freyalise, deanimating the Karametra. They'll have 4 cards during their next turn, so can likely animate that once again. And we haven't dropped a land yet, so let's shock in the Blood Crypt. And we'll play out a Sun Titan, getting back the Audacious Thief, I think. And we've got 2 means of haste now, as long as our opponent doesn't have a wipe. It was arguably risky getting down the Akroma's Memorial whilst Fervor's in play. But our opponent's got a Chord of Calling apparently. No, it is a March of the Multitudes. So X is 4, making 4 lifelinking tokens. And swinging in at us with those suggests that there might be a board wipe, and then pulling them back. Maybe they were just looking to gain some life there. Now it is a Fiend Slayer. We fly over all of this thanks to the Akroma's Memorial. Don't forget, a Llanowar Elves is their second trigger on the Karametra. So 2 cards left in hand, but plenty of mana to play whatever they top deck into. Obviously they're drawing with the Beast Whisperer whenever they play a creature as well. Plussing on the Nissa. I think I would have minused on that because you have to assume you're going to lose it next turn. And now going for another Convoke spell. It is Impervious Great Worm, a 16/16 indestructible. It doesn't have any evasion though. So we can get plenty of chump blockers out for that. With the Grave Titan we draw into yet another land. It's a good job there hasn't been much removal this game. So we'll get down the Grave Titan so that we can swing in with it this turn. Can actually swing in with the tokens as well because everything has vigilance. So that is 6, 12, 18, and yeah, don't quite have lethal on them, so we'll have to deal with the Nissa, and then everything else can swing in at our opponent. So that triggers the Sun Titan a couple of times. We've got 2 fetches to grab with that, and then Grave Titan makes 2 zombies twice, so 4 in total, a couple of treasure tokens, and we lose a couple of life and draw a couple of cards to the Thief. We draw into a land, you never would have guessed it, but we do get a Teferi's Protection as well, which means we're looking pretty good for winning now. Got our opponent down to 10, so I'm not sure what they could actually do to us here. 2 cards in hand, it's a big spell, whatever they're going for. Could be a Crater Hoof or something. But Teferi's Protection protects us from that. Our life total can't change after that spell. It is a Patron of the Orochi. They traverse the Outlands, 1 card left in hand, so I imagine they're just playing it out for the fun of it. Totally stripping their entire deck of basics there, I imagine. Well, pretty close to it. Turning in with some lifelinkers, so we'll do the blocks correctly here. Throwing a couple of zombies away to the God and the Worm as well, but we do get them for lethal. On the next turn we were drawing into a Reconnaissance, a little bit too late for that. We'll play 1 more. Alright, testing our odds against Tatyova this time with a 2-lander, but an otherwise decent hand, pretty slow, because we don't have any ramp. Don't seem to get into ramp a lot in this deck. So maybe have to up the ramp count, but we'll try that. A Preordain from the Simic player. Alright, and there is the next land that we need, that's good. Still can't do anything on turn 2, but we can at least start with Captain Lannery Storm most likely next turn. And surprisingly, our opponent doesn't do anything on turn 2 either. Yeah, this keeps happening on Magic Online. We'll draw into the stuff on turn 3 when we could have cast it the previous turn. Anyway, Isolated Chapel, get that down for the Captain Lannery Storm, and we'll start ramping here. If our opponent doesn't get down a creature to block with next turn, then I'll likely go for the Isshin, so that we can get multiple treasures down with Lannery Storm. Kodama's Reach. A Blasphemous Act now. So we'll go for the Isshin as per the plan previously, and then we can get down a 3-drop here. Swing in with Lannery Storm again. And she does, of course, trigger twice, thanks to Isshin being in play now. Not too worried about a board wipe here, so I think we're fine getting down Hanweir Garrison. A Shire Soul of the Wild, that's going to be pretty big. Comes down as a 6/6, because it does include itself as a land, of course. Draw into our 4th land, so now do we just see if we can get into spot removal? Let's play the Night's Whisper to draw a couple of cards. There is a Talisman. We do have the Hanweir Battlements. So we could activate that next turn, surprise our opponent with it, crack the Flooded Strand, and then we can get down the Talisman this turn. And don't think we're going to be doing much of anything else. Just need to hope our opponent doesn't make a bunch of lands next turn, because this thing will be a 7/4 with haste and trample when we transform it. Could also go for the ankle shanker as well for first strike and death touch so that we can get through the Ashaya. Alright, so now seeing Tatyova, it does enter as a land thanks to Ashaya, so it triggers itself, and they haven't made any lands yet. Not the craziest of Tatyova decks I've seen at least. This can be a more fair game. Shockingly, not playing another land, they've got a full grip, but clearly haven't drawn into it. See a Martin Stromgold. Alright, so as tempting as it is to meld the Hamweir Garrison, I think we have to do that next turn. It's Ankle Shanker this turn, I think, so that we can carry on swinging in and ramping with Lannery Storm. It's pretty much the only ramp that we've seen. And the Ankle Shanker does have haste, so we turn everything in sideways here. And then it's Ankle Shanker on the stack first, so that the Hamweir Garrison brings in the tokens before it sees this resolve, so that the tokens get first strike and death touch as well. So there we see the tokens have been given death touch and first strike, as have all of the other creatures. So they can't block us very well here. And then after that it's a combat celebrant because the Laelia does have haste. And that's going to be some decent card advantage for us next turn. Oracle of Muldaya from our opponent triggers the landfall again, and they did draw into something but we didn't see it in time. A Nature's Claim is on top, so not having the best of luck making land drops. And there is a Terramorphic Expanse on top. We see a Brainstorm from their hands, so we can obviously put a couple of lands on top here and play them out. So there's a Forest. And they drew into something else again. The client went through too quickly. And they're playing Terramorphic Expanse. I've removed the auto yields from Tatyova now so that we can actually see what they've got on Exploration. The client should put this in the revealed zone really if we've seen it on top of their library, but it doesn't unfortunately. Scoot Swarm as well, so they're about to get a lot of blockers in play. There's an Exploration. They could shuffle the Scoot Swarm away in an attempt to make another land drop. But they've drawn into an Evolving Wilds at some point as well, so drawing into the Scoot Swarm, another land they cannot play, I don't think. The Ashaya, now an 11/11 though. So we're going to have to go quickly at this point. Shuffling away the island for the Terramorphic Expanse. Draws them into a Roiling Regrowth. And reveals a Beast Within. So starting to go off here. Cracking the Evolving Wilds as well, and it's an E-Witness that they're drawing into now. And revealing on top, Ancient Green Warden. I did really want to meld the Hamweir Garrison into the Writhing Township here. You don't often get a chance to do that, but seeing as how our opponent's going off here, I think it's just going to have to be Martin Stromgold and give it haste with the Garrison, or the Hamweir Battlements, I should say. And we should be able to get, yeah, I would have thought we'd get lethal on our opponent then. Ulamog being discarded, so shuffling everything back into the library, discarding Eternal Witness, an Overrun, and a Burgeoning. They'll obviously shuffle their library here, so we'll see something else on top. It is an island. Here we see the Audacious Thief again. Don't have haste on the board, unfortunately. So it is the Martin Stromgold. And we do have enough red mana to do this, thankfully. Give haste to the Stromgold because it does have to attack in order to get the trigger and buff our entire army. Alright, and our opponent scoops it. Yeah, so all we're going to do there is turn everything in sideways, and every attacking creature that goes in gets a +1/+1 buff per other attacking creature, basically. So they can't block thanks to the Ankle Shanker. That really helped us out that game. The Ankle Shanker made it really difficult for our opponent to swing. The only other thing we could have done there really was gone for a Blasphemous Act and taken out a few of our own creatures in order to get rid of the Ashaya. But I dare say our opponent would have outraced us there, because starting to get into the late game and drawing into the removal and means of card draw in landfall and stuff like that, yeah, just about managed to out-aggro the Tatyova. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to consider leaving a donation on Patreon via the link in the description below. Huge thank you to those of you who do that already, and I will see you all in the next one, hopefully. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.